Alright, good evening. I got a private message last night for a quick video idea, so I figured I would go ahead and follow through with it. It was a reloading question, and it's basically a tour of my reloading bench, so I figured why not. I'll talk a little bit about my bench here. It's nothing special, but it works for me, and so we'll talk briefly about it, and I'll kind of show you some of the tools and equipment that I have, and I'll maybe talk about some of the storage that I use and potentially some upgrades that I'd like to do in the future. So without further ado, let's see if we can give you a tour here of the bench. Alright, so here's my bench. I built a 2x4 simple 2x4 bench. It's got 3/4 inch plywood shelves, and I used the Simpson strong ties on the corners just to make it easier. Certainly not necessary, but it did make it a little stronger and a little easier to support all this weight. There's a tremendous amount of weight on this bench that I'll talk about here in just a minute. So just 2 foot deep, it's 8 foot long, and it's probably about 33 to 36 inches tall. I don't remember quite honestly, but that's basically all there is. And it is kind of a torsion box. I used plywood on the bottom of the top part of the bench, and I also use plywood down on the bottom shelf as well to kind of create a torsion box. So the way I chose to mount my press, I have a Dillon 550. You can see here I do have the strong mount. It's the Dillon strong mount that simply just bolts through the top of the bench. I actually used, I believe they're 1/4 bolts with nuts on the bottom end. It's extremely strong. Doesn't move at all, and that's exactly what you want for a reloading press. I see videos of these guys that have, presses mounted to tables, and every time they pull the handle, the whole table flexes, and that would just annoy me to death. So. This thing doesn't move, I mean, not even at all. So strong. Love the Dillon 550. Would I like a 650? Of course, but I really don't shoot enough to warrant the extra cost. It's not that hard to manually index the press. And if you saw a video I posted last night, or might be one that's going up tonight, I can load 100 rounds in about 10 minutes. So that's plenty quick enough for me, and serves my purposes. So I have quick change kits for each caliber. This is the 380 right now that's mounted. Up here I have other quick change kits ready to go on the press. I have one for 223, I have another for 9mm, and then I have another one for 38 and 357 Magnum. Those are the main calibers I load. I do have some dies for a couple of other calibers. I actually have those stored over here in this cabinet. I believe I'm down to just one other caliber now. That's 30-30 Winchester. So along with my press, I have a tumbler to clean the brass. I did a video on cleaning brass not too long ago, so you can check that out on how I clean and polish my brass. I also have one of these Hornady, not sure what it's called, lock and load case prep trio. So I use that to do brass prep on 223. And it has the chamfer and deburr tools. It also has the military primer crimp clean out tool as well. So that's all I use that machine for, is 223 case prep. So up here I have some of the tools that I use and materials. Here's the polish I use for my Tumbler, new finished car wax, and the ground walnut that I use in the Tumbler. I have some gun oil, some brass lube. I use the Dillon case lube, and then some hops, bore cleaner, some one shot. I use that for various things. Use ballistol to oil my pistols and rifles. So moving over here, usually on top of my bench there's always a box of bullets that I've either used recently or plan on using soon. There's some 9mm bullets, and then of course here's the 380 that I loaded last night. Got the dial calipers always on hand. There's my scale that I use, a little digital scale, cheap one. I keep these containers, old cat litter containers. This one's full of 223. 223 takes a lot of effort to load due to most of it being that you find the brass anyway. Not most of it, but a lot of times it's military crimp. And of course with rifle brass you have to trim it, and that just adds a lot of time to the process. So I usually kind of keep a couple of different buckets that have 223 brass in different stages of the case prep. Here's my Dillon Super Swage. This is for swaging the military crimps out of 223. It'll also do 308. It'll also do 9mm. So, and those are the major ones I'm aware of that require swaging the military crimp out of the primer pocket hole in order to be able to reload it. Up here I've got various case gauges. Talked about that in my last video. I've got one for each caliber that I use. Some funnels. Here's my trimmer for 223. I forget who makes this, but this thing is awesome. It's chuck this up in a drill motor, and you can just trim as fast as you can feed the 223 shells up into the trimmer, and this makes very quick work of trimming brass. I've got various press parts up in here. This toolbox here is full of old press parts and shell holders, old trimming equipment, beam scale, that kind of thing, with a loading block. That's how I used to reload with a single stage press. Don't do that anymore. So glancing around, storage is the other part of the reloading bench, and this is something I've been working on quite a bit lately, is trying to get all the parts and ammo and brass organized. So the way I chose to do it is using these bins that you can pick up from Walmart or Target, and just separate by caliber. So I use across the bottom, I try to keep loaded ammo, and then on top is bins of brass. So I've got various calibers here separated. so I can easily get to it and easily see like how much I have. And then I've got some smaller bins over here with some factory ammo and shotgun ammo and stuff like that. Over here I have not tackled yet as far as cleaning up the storage solution, but this is all my bullets in here, and then over here is all my primers, and then over here is all of my powder, which I keep together. So I want to try to come up with some kind of storage solution for this as well, to make it a little bit more sightly to look at, instead of just a bunch of boxes full of stuff stacked all up. So that's basically it. Kind of the workflow is I usually keep a bucket of a clean bucket. It happens to be that yellow bucket right there. When I come back from the range, I take all my brass out of my range bag, which is up there on the top shelf, that I picked up from the range, and I throw it in that bucket, and then it kind of sits there until I get ready to sort it. And then I'll come over here and I'll sort all the brass that I shot and picked up at the range into various calibers, and then I'll put it down in the storage bins to live another day. And then I'll just kind of load whatever I feel like, or whatever needs to be loaded throughout the year, just kind of whenever I feel like it, or whenever the weather's good and not too hot out here in the garage. And then as I load it again, I'll bag it up into Ziploc bags and then store it down here in the loaded ammo bins. So that's kind of my bench. Reloading bench tour 2017. So I hope that helps. And if you like the video, please punch that thumbs up button, and hit that subscribe button if you'd like as well. I've got more videos on the way. Thanks. Bye.